Let's just try a bit of stretching before we stand up. Just reaching up with each hand. And then forwards. And now let's just reach up with both at the same time. Trying to arch the spine backwards. And then pulling the belly to bring the hands down. The hands are going up and down from your core. In my back arches a little, push the hands up. And I contract the belly to pull them down. Everything I do requires effort, and I want to feel that effort originating in my core, my belly, lower back. And now just bringing the arms out. Feel that the line extending from your heart. It's like you're making a triangle. And feel the strength that you need in your lower back, belly to maintain this. And now just flatten the arms out so they're horizontal and just turning. And then just bringing the arms up again. And then just back down into prayer. We'll just sit here for a minute or so. Physically, I sink, but spiritually, I rise. I just feel the fingers, especially the two middle fingers, directing that lifting spirit energy. We want the same strength in the lower back and the belly that we had when the arms were diagonally out. So one of the reasons that we are too physical, not enough with the spirit, is because of lack of strength in the belly lower back. So let's just bring the arms just out once more. Just feel, this has to contract and tighten just to maintain this. And now just bring the hands together and just keep that tension in the belly. So the tension in the belly that we have now is a tension that supports the lower back. If I'm really pulling down from above, then I'm using my belly muscles to pull down. That's not what's happening here. I'm just having some tone here to prevent the lower back from leaning me back too much. So this is the belt of the waist. We tend to lose it as we get older, as you've probably realized, especially men. I have a student and he's 50 and he's really getting a paunch. And so I said to him, you need to lose some weight. He says, it's strange because it's only developed recently, the paunch. And it sort of started the same time that he stopped eating so much. So there's a point, you know, when you reach middle age where your metabolism just slows down, you become sort of stuck in your ways. You don't need the same activity that you had when you were younger. And you really need to reduce your diet. Otherwise, you will just put on a lot of weight. So Danjian Ming Men. Just locate the Danjian, inch and a half or so beneath the navel. And then locate the Ming Men. So it's the point of maximum curvature in your lower back, the point that is furthest this way. Want to feel those two, a real pair, they're really connected, almost the same thing. And then breathing this area, pulling the belly in. So I'm trying to pull my Danjian towards my Mingmen, and then I reverse that. Trying to get some flexion into the lower back. We need a mind that can really focus and see what's happening. Because I want what's beneath the Ming Men to pull under as I pull the belly in. So if I'm going to bring my head over, the head coming over like this is simply mirroring the tail coming under. If I'm too enthusiastic with my head and I pull it over too much, then my tail will stick behind. That's what I don't want. So here my tail's pointing back a little bit and my head is reaching back. And now here, this is the difficult bit. I have to bend the legs so that I'm sucking the tail down into the legs towards the knees. And then I can let it out. riding horse. The cave of riding horse. Your body is like a cave which you're inside but looking out of. So we have the three centers, three dantians. This one, this one, this one. So these two, they have their own cave, if you like. So the thoracic spine, which curves like this, houses the heart. The cranium, which curves like this, houses the head point. So what we want to do is just feel as though we have the same sort of curvature in the lower back so that this can have its own cave down here. We've got it from the sacrum and the legs here. I really want to just pack down into the sacrum and almost feel that my lower back is bulging backwards. Just imagine an ape sort of walking around like this. So they have a real pull under here. Chimpanzees and gorillas. So they're like this, sort of leaning forwards. But then if they want to rear up, which they will do to see danger in the distance or to be aggressive, then they will just tighten here in the lower back and do this. So their belly is still falling forwards. Their lower back is still angled like this, but their upper back has come up here. And then suddenly their legs are thrusting energy up into their upper chest and their head. You know, like a gorilla that starts beating its chest. You can feel, you know, what would have happened. They're sort of short-sighted. They're not used to looking in the distance. You know, they're living in the jungle where you don't need to look into the distance because things are so close to you. And you're walking around like this, a lot of your contact is with the ground. And then suddenly you realize, oh, I can do this. And you're looking out and it's just bringing that aggression up into your thymus and your head point. Now, what we need to do, the step that we need to take to get out of being an ape, is to allow this to settle down like this. So now I'm still vertical, but I no longer have the tightness here. I've allowed my bum just to fall down and I'm now sitting down into my legs. So that's the spiritual adjustment we need to make in our posture. And it just means the legs take a lot more strain because, you know, the ape is thrusting itself out of its legs like this. And then we have to just sit back down into the legs without leaning us forwards. And so that's riding horse, really. So the adjustment that we make to our posture, which is really just sitting down, letting the sacrum drop, it softens the lift. So that what lifts from the ground is not aggression, but pure spirit energy, pure softness comes up from my strong foundation. This is what we really have to connect to, that beautiful lifting energy coming from the physical sinking. So I have to be able to feel both flows. Physically, I'm almost melting down into the ground, and spiritually, this mist is just trickling upwards. And I need to just be able to let go so that I can allow that. A lot of the holding on that we have, a lot of our tension is simply trying to hold us in as one thing, trying to unify ourselves, give ourselves a sense of togetherness so that we can operate. And the relaxation that we require is just letting that go so that nature, gravity, the draw of the heavens can just take over. And it's pretty much the same letting go that is required to allow that aorta to split into the two legs. So it is very much this feeling that something is flowing and then, it just sort of goes down. It doesn't just go down like this. It splits into the two legs. So I'm very aware of the one becoming two. And I have to feel the release, the letting go that allows that one to become two, because it's pretty much the same letting go that allows me to physically sink and spiritually rise at the same time. That's still the one, me, becoming two, the physical and the spiritual. And then we just try and feel it in the two sides of the body. So just moving from leg to leg. This is how we practice this. This is basically Tai Chi. Tai Chi is just getting that split into two, the two sides of the body. So I want to feel the action of the leg. My leg straightens and then it bends. My leg straightens and then it bends. Let's just try a bit with the arm. So same as what we were doing when we were sitting down. So what I want to feel is basically my arm coming out of my back, coming out of my spine across the shoulder blade. So if I want to get as much extension as possible with this arm, so if I want to get the whole shoulder from here to here included in the arm, I have to turn away from it as I reach out with it. And then when I start coming back, it rolls up, it becomes round, it becomes ward off. And that is the yielding. Here it's becoming straight. This feeling that from the back, from the spine to the fingertips is like a straight line. And then I roll it back up. Practice this slowly and really looking at it. So feeling the mood. So in order to reach out, something in you has to become courageous and optimistic. You're not going to go fishing unless you think you're going to catch something. And then as I bring it in, that mood shifts. It's no longer quite so open because now it's intent on inspecting what it's drawing in. So this is attacking. I'm bringing something up and sending it out. And then this is retrieving that, yielding, pulling in what I've captured. This is rising energy, and this is sinking energy. This is our basic action. And you can see it's actually an attack followed by yield. It's not yielding and then attacking. It's a reaching out, which you can think of as an attack, followed by a pulling in, which is the yield. And then if I wanted to attack from that, I'd just reverse it. I'd just change back. And now just the legs now. So this one is straightening. So I want the feeling that my leg is coming out of my Ming Men or out of the side of my sacrum. And then I bend the leg and that will roll me round. So I'm turning. If I want to reach out or I want to move around, then I need to turn. So we normally just reach with one hand or we step with one foot. We're not kangaroos bouncing around. So I extend and then I pull it back. And then what we want to try and feel is not simply the straightening of the leg, but the twisting of the leg. My foot is trying to twist out like this. So there's like a spiral corkscrew action inside the leg. And then I just reverse the spiral. Twist and twist back. and then riding horse. And now let's just try and feel the dantian as the split of the artery into the two legs. So just the heaven and earth exercise, really. So just imagine you're tracing the aorta, you're coming down, and then it splits. It splits down the two legs and reaches down to the feet. And then the veins start coming back up, and they come up behind the aorta, up into the heart. And now the arteries split from the heart down the arms. And then the veins come back the other way into the heart, and then down from the heart, down the legs. So the one becomes two, and then each of those becomes two, each of those becomes two. So by the time you're up here at the fingertips, there's so many capillaries reaching out. And then there's the ones that return. So now the two is becoming one. Then that two is becoming one. You know, so it's all recombining, and now it's proliferating, it's splitting into this real complexity in the legs, and then rising up. So what's important here is that we do feel it as two arms. It's not just one person, it's two sides. So here the two legs are quite separate. I want to feel them as two. And it comes up, I have the one heart, but that branches into the two arms. And I remember I keep the two separate by just wriggling a little bit. If I introduce turns, it will just mean that one is going slightly before the other. Feel it as the flow of the blood. There's something very rich, almost masculine about the blood. It's sort of full of passion. I mean, the color is just so bright and over the top. So that's the mood of this circulation. It's the blood that's circulating. And I want to feel in particular as it splits from the aorta and joins at the vein behind the aorta, and as it splits out of the top of the heart into the two arms, and then rejoins into the heart, down and ooh. back into riding horse. But now feel that structure, feel that vascular system, something coming down, splitting, something coming up, recombining, coming up, splitting into the arms, coming back down the arms into the heart. And my heart is this strong muscle that's pumping to push the blood around the system. And now the same thing as turning from the two legs, but just a little bit more quickly. So straightening, bending, straightening, bending. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So whenever I turn, I really want to feel it as this two sides of the body alternating in their actions. And that just happens to produce this turn of my torso. But it also means that my torso becomes this writhing muscular mass. And then just let it go. But the legs are still doing the same thing. One leg is straightening, one leg is bending, the other leg is straightening, bending. So again, it's like a beating heart. It's a pump. I want to work in such a way that I'm forced to concentrate. Can't afford to let my mind wander. Otherwise, the whole system will just collapse. It will just become mechanical. I want to feel these pumps. Each leg is a pump. And now let's try the one where we turn to the side. So basically the breathing again. As I open up, I'm going to turn to the side. It's the same action in the legs. This leg is pressing to get me around, but this leg has to press a bit now to keep me in the middle. Otherwise, I'll move too much here. So my back leg is active in the sense that it's trying to move me. My front leg is passive. It has like a holding action. It's trying to keep me from moving too much. So the passive isn't inactivity. It's an activity that's trying to temper the activity, trying to regulate the activity of the active side. Now, the same thing, but feeling it now as the figure of eight that goes around the 2 feet. So I turn this way, and it's like a bubble opens up that can enclose this foot. So I turn, something opens, and then I turn back, and that starts it enclosing. Now I've caught this foot, and now I do the same this side. I'm opening and then swallowing, opening. So this is really how we want to feel the figure of eight and see the figure of eight. It's not so much this trace. It's not like a line that I'm tracing. It's more like two bubbles that open up in order to surround something. So here a bubble opens up, it surrounds this foot, and then I catch it and bring it back in. Something opens up, something closes, something reaches out, something draws in. This is the returning. Whatever leaves has to return. The returning spiral. That's how John described the figure of eight. So the energy is stimulated, the energy is moving, it's opening, it's closing, it's reaching, it's drawing back in. And my imaginative mind sees that as a figure of eight. I'm not using a determined mind to trace a figure of eight. I'm not seeing the structure before the energy. It's a structure that appears out of the energy. It's very important, this. So like Leong's phrase, imagination becomes reality. So the energy's working, and I sort of sense that as this figure of eight trace. My mind, if it wants to, can see it as a line or point that's moving. But it's not really that. That's just how I see it at that moment. I could see it in lots of different ways. Okay, now let's just try a bit of full and empty backwards and forwards. So one leg is bending, and I have to make sure that the other leg gets completely straight before I bend it to go back. So this is the bow and arrow. This is the bow, the drawn bow that then springs back. This is the drawn bow again that springs back. I stretch the bow, I draw the bow and let the arrow out. Then again, I draw the bow and let the arrow out. Tension and release. Here I get tense and then I release. And then I get tense and then I release. Have to try and feel this point. This is bent and supporting, and this is really straightening, trying to get as straight as possible. And then the same thing here. This is bent and supporting, and this is really trying to straighten. So what's difficult to feel is that straightening coming into the push. When I come into the front foot and straighten the back leg, this is easy because I can just feel that the straightening of this leg is pushing this hip around and pushing this hand forwards. So there's a certain force driving forwards from my back straightening leg. And then when I go back, I have to bend the back leg. Now, I want to feel the force here similarly coming from the bending of the front leg. Now, what's difficult about this is actually pushing me backwards. So there isn't any sort of force like this. So what I basically have to do is allow this straightening to just make me bend forwards like this. So the straightening of the leg here continues along this path. That's it. So you've got a sense of almost leaning forwards greedily. And then you just let that bend. And then here, you don't need to do that here. So here, the straightening, if anything, is making you lean backwards with your upper body. But here, when you straighten the front leg, it really makes you almost jackknife forwards with the upper body. And it's difficult. It's difficult to associate going back with pushing forwards. So the energy, okay, is coming out the back leg, but I don't want to bounce out of the back leg. I'm not sinking into the back leg and then straightening it into my push. I'm using my front leg to drive me into this source of energy. So I'm still sinking. I'm sinking to get the energy out, not rising. Let's try the other foot forwards. Filling from the front leg. And my back leg is just making sure that that energy that comes up is directed forwards rather than out to the side here. And then I go into the back leg. So as I release this straightening of the leg, it will turn me here towards the corner. And then I go into the leg, but now I have to straighten up to make sure the energy coming out of this hand again is forwards and not over here. And then as I bend the front leg, it will turn me towards this corner. And then I need to straighten the back leg again to bring me back around to the front. Feel this. I really have to straighten this leg here. It's something we're just not used to. I'll try a little bit to the side so you can see just how much it goes, leans forwards. So as I go back, I have to really straighten this front leg. So you're really sort of inclined forwards here. So you get really sunk. I could almost touch the ground here. Okay. And now, just try some of this one. Two legs doing opposite things. One heel coming up, one heel going down. That produces a turn. Feel the heel that goes down. I want the feeling that as this foot goes down, it cuts under this one. Feel the tail. The problem with, when we work with our own body, we tend to want to make sure we're doing it right by looking at it. And unless you have a mirror, the only way to look at yourself is to actually look down. And that will tend to stick the bum out and will make this lean forwards too much. It will get heavy. So just try and feel the tail. My tail is digging down underneath the leg. And then this can rise up. I don't need to look down. Like there's an eye in the tip of your tail, and you're trying to get it to look down and underneath, like a probe. So we don't use the eyes to see, we use the eyes to express the spirit. Imagine John, who's virtually blind. So he gave up trying to see, when he was actually quite young. So his eyes are always flashing behind those thick spectacles. His spirit was very much in evidence. If I want something to rise up here off my hand, I have to get down underneath from the opposite foot. Otherwise, I'll have to force it. And then let it subside. The sense that you've still got these two figures of eights going around your 2 feet. It feels like the weight is wriggling and shifting over your foot all the time. You're sort of working the ground like you're kneading dough, but rather than kneading the dough like this, you're sort of doing one hand at a time. When you're making bread and just how satisfying it is when the dough becomes springy and starts giving something back. This is the feeling we want with the ground, with the world. And especially between the two sides of the body. It's like there's a wrestling match going on all the time. So in Tai Chi, you're boxing the other person, but you're wrestling yourself. I've been watching Rudolph Valentino movies. And I just love those silent movies because they had to do everything with their face and their movement. They didn't have words to lie for them. Yeah, and he's such a good actor. You see these emotions shifting through his face and his physique, especially with regards to a woman. You can see why they called him the Latin lover. As soon as he sees a woman that he fancies, every part of him starts bristling and moving. And a face that's just so ready to break into a smile. It's lovely.